Hello everybody, the topic I'm going to explain to you is relevant to consumer surplus, and after the completion of this video lecture you will be able to know what is consumer surplus, graphical representation of consumer surplus, changes in consumer surplus due to increase in supply, due to decrease in supply, due to imposition of minimum price by the government, and due to imposition of maximum price by the government. Before moving forward, I would suggest you to see description and copy all links and paste them in your Word file so that you can keep them in your record for future use. Furthermore, I would suggest you to note these references for better practice and for best exam preparation. So starting with the definition of consumer surplus is the difference between market price and the price consumer is willing to pay. Sometimes consumers undergo some research about the prices of certain products and they arrange that money while they are going to purchase that product from the market, and luckily when they reach the market they are able to get the same product at lower price what they were expected to pay. So whatever money they save is consumer surplus. For example, if you decided to purchase a certain laptop and you arranged money after undergoing research about the price of that product, and when you reached the market you found that there was promotion on that laptop and you got that laptop at lower price than the price you were expected to pay. For example, if you were expecting that you will have to pay $500 for that certain laptop, but when you reach the market you found that laptop at $450, the $50 you saved is basically the consumer surplus. Now we can see it graphically. Label quantity on X, origin point, and then price on Y. This is the demand curve, normal demand curve, which is negatively sloped, and this is the price consumer is generally willing to pay when he is going to purchase the product from the market, and he arranges this much amount of money. Let's say it's suppose $10, but when we reach the market it is available at lower price, that is let's say P1, and it's suppose $8. So this is the consumer surplus. This area of triangle is consumer surplus. Consumer surplus in this situation is equal to P, P1 and E. The area above price line, equilibrium price, and below demand curve is known as consumer surplus. Okay, if you did understand this concept then write in comment box, but if you are facing any kind of difficulty then again you can write in comment box. I will try to answer your question, and you can find out consumer surplus numerically as well. For example, if consumer was willing to pay $10 price and he found that that product is available in the market for $8, so this will be the area of this triangle will be the consumer surplus. So this is consumer surplus, and for this much quantity we can find out total consumer surplus numerically, which he will obtain by paying this much price. So area of triangle, mathematically this is the area of triangle. So we will apply the formula of triangle, that is 1/2 into height into base. So in this situation height is the gap between 10 and 8, so 1/2 is the part of formula, and then we will have to put the value of height. Height is $2 into base is this much, this is quantity 100. So if we further solve it then we can find that $100 is the consumer surplus. Okay, now let's have a look. If there is rise in supply in the market then what will happen to the consumer surplus, and if there is fall in supply then what will be the impact. So this is the area of consumer surplus. So initially consumer surplus will be, consumer CS stand for consumer surplus. Initially consumer surplus is PEA. Now if there is increase in supply then as a basic principle supply curve should shift to the right. So new supply curve is S1 and new equilibrium will take place at E1, and the new price consumer will pay is let's say B. So new consumer surplus is after the change in supply, consumer surplus has changed. So new consumer surplus is equal to PB and E1. So PBE1 is the new consumer surplus, and we can see that consumer surplus has increased by this much area, and this area is technically known as trapezium. So increase in consumer surplus is equal to ABE1E, and technically this area is known as trapezium. This certain shape is known as trapezium, and the formula to find out trapezium is equal to 1 over 2 into height into sum of parallel sides. Now coming to the decrease in supply. If there is decrease in supply, how consumer surplus will change? Let's have a look on this graph. This is demand curve. P is the price consumer is willing to pay, but in the market price is set at equilibrium where demand and supply meet each other. For example, initially equilibrium price is A, so consumer surplus is equal to PAA. Now if there is decrease in supply, and as a basic principle of demand and supply curve should shift to the left. New supply curve is S1, and equilibrium will now shift to E1, and equilibrium price is now B. So equilibrium price has increased, so new consumer surplus is equal to PE1 and B, which has decreased, and decrease in consumer surplus is equal to this much area ABE1 and E, and this area is again in the shape of trapezium, and we will use the formula of trapezium to find out this value. Consumer surplus also changes when government intervenes in the economy and government sets minimum price above equilibrium or maximum price below equilibrium. In both situations, consumer surplus will change. So initially consumer surplus is equal to PAE. Minimum price is the price set by government above equilibrium, and this is equilibrium price, so minimum price must be above equilibrium at this point. Let's say this is minimum price, and we suppose that this is point N, this is point M. So new consumer surplus is now equal to the area PNM, and we can see that there is decrease in consumer surplus equal to the area, this much area of consumer surplus has decreased. So ANME is the loss of consumer surplus or decrease in consumer surplus, ANMNE. Again, this is the area of trapezium. Initial consumer surplus is equal to PAE, and if government sets maximum price, which is always set below equilibrium. Maximum price as a basic principle is the price which is set by the government below equilibrium to support consumers, but will it support consumers or not? It depends upon the circumstance of each case. If market is regulated by the government very effectively, then definitely it can be beneficial for the consumers, but in most of the cases it results in huge shortage in the market and results in black marketing, and shadow market is also created, which generally charges prices higher than the equilibrium price even. The maximum price is set by the government below equilibrium. Let's say it's price PX. This is maximum price. In this scenario, suppliers will be willing to supply this much quantity. At this price PX, suppliers will be willing to supply this much quantity, and for this much quantity they will charge price P1, and let's say this is point B. So new consumer surplus is PX, and we can label this point as, let's say, C. So PX, C and B is the new consumer surplus. So new consumer surplus is equal to PX, C and then B. This is again the area of trapezium. This looks like trapezium, and we should apply the formula of trapezium, that is 1 over 2 height into sum of parallel sides to find out the value. So net change in consumer surplus in this situation is, this is the area of consumer surplus which have been added. So we will write this area A, PX, C and D is the area which have been added to the consumer surplus, but this is the area which we have lost as well. So we will deduct it, that is DBE. So the net effect of this area can be equal to the area PAE. It can be lesser than PAE or it can be more than PAE. If you did understand this topic, then write in the comment box yes and thumb up. And if you have any issue in understanding this topic, then again you can write in the comment box. I will try to answer your question. Furthermore, if you are using Topical Economics paper 1 by Kamar Baloch, then you can find all the questions and their answers there. Each and every MCQ have been explained there. Similarly, in Topical paper 2 book, you can find the full length answers relevant to this topic. I have given you references of these topics at the start of the video. So see you soon with next video, inshallah ta'ala.